Welcome to my short 5 minutes or less review of The Evil Within 2. The Evil Within 2 plunges you back into the twisted, blood-soaked world of survival horror with new additions to the mix that might surprise returning veterans. You play as Sebastian Constellanos, the now paranoid and disjointed hero from the first game. Without deep spoilers, this story takes place after a 3-year time gap, chronicling Sebastian becoming a wayward drunk after his horrific psychological experience in Beacon Mental Hospital. A shadowy organization known as Mobius has concealed every stitch of evidence relating to Sebastian's findings from the public eye. A former comrade, Julie Kidman, then tracks our intrepid hero down with the revelation that his daughter didn't actually die in a tragic accident relating to a house fire. While hesitant at first, Sebastian fully accepts Kidman's proposal to now fight for his daughter's life in the newly created STEM machine, knowing full well the demented reality it creates. This title has a lot more clear narrative focus compared to his plotting predecessor. Sebastian is a bit less boring compared to his previous nonchalant characterization, and the story reflects this newfound change. It's not perfect, and it drags its feet occasionally, but the process of making The Evil Within 2 pack more emotional weight to the story is the best that it'll obviously get here for a game about these Freddy Krueger Dream and Die STEM machines. Knowing the DLC stories and the story from the original plot isn't mandatory, but it helps piece together the puzzle a little bit more clearly. The gameplay is reminiscent of the original with some added bonuses that I never expected. You have the core survival horror theme for The Evil Within that requires you to save your resources for the next big encounter. However, Tango Gameworks decided to add in more of an open world element that just begs to be explored for extra items, weapons, and unlockables. I really like that. I was so enticed to go through each haunted area, and it's remarkable how Tango put in so many dangers with each new side mission and objective. It had me thinking twice before going down a street trying to find a new gun and seeing a saw blade wielding she-beast ready to cut my head off. The frustrations from the first Evil Within seem to be removed entirely, like enemies with guns, one-hit kill boss fights that drove me up a freaking wall, and the letterbox ratio that concealed vital items or traps that you need to see on screen is now a thing of the past. Granted, some problems do exist within The Evil Within 2 from a technical and head-scratching perspective, like questions that made me wonder, why is there so many game bugs? Why is there so many pop-in textures? Why is there no chapter select for New Game Plus players? And most of all, why does the movement feel stiff compared to other third-person shooters and third-person horror games out there on the market? It boggles my mind a little bit, but the new gameplay additions are still plentiful, and the game still does hold its weight regardless of the game bugs, especially when it came to adding onto the core of Evil Within. I didn't feel like any of the content was boring filler, especially the side missions, which felt like a better Silent Hill downpour in comparison. There's just some things that need a call to action, some things in The Evil Within 2 that needs adjustments, and it makes me feel like the game needed more polish. There's tweaking to be had, like the field of vision, there's fixes to be had, like the collision detection, and of course, they needed to add in that chapter select because The Evil Within is a long game and it has fetch quests for certain achievements, so if you miss a certain key, if you miss a locker key, or you miss a certain item, sometimes you cannot go back to a previous area, so they need chapter select to make that a lot more easier for achievement hunters, and I think a patch could easily iron out some of my gripes. I will say this game was one big guilty pleasure from start to finish as a fan of the first. It outshines the first game with a majority of fresh content while keeping what was around that was good in the first title. The monster design is still downright disgusting when you see them in action, and I was in awe. I will say the graphics aren't going to give you any eye-melting leisure, of course, but it does serve as a backdrop for a somewhat reasonable 30 FPS, minus a few small FPS hiccups here or there. In conclusion, The Evil Within 2 is a lengthy game over its predecessor. I clocked in at about 17 chapters, and that ended at about 21 hours. It has all the bells and whistles of ironing out the rough edges from The Evil Within 1, but it doesn't quite cross that threshold in being perfect in regards to technical performance. The game does what a sequel sets out to do, fixing the problems and managing to tick all the major boxes, and I give The Evil Within some props and a letter grade for a B.